All right, can you guys hear me? All right, cool. What's up, everyone? Just wanted to let you guys know there's like a little bit of a lag between what you guys are seeing and the comments that I'm seeing. So, like, if you ask a question and I don't get to it immediately, it's not because I didn't see it. Chances are it's just because of that like 10 or 15-second lag. But I hope everybody's doing good. This is pretty cool. It's my first live stream, so I'm excited that you guys are here watching. And for those of you guys who are like up at 3, 4 in the morning, that's really cool. If you guys have like schoolwork right now or something like that to do, you probably should be sleeping or getting to work on your models instead. But otherwise, I'm really excited that you guys are here and this is so cool. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to do a basic Q&A. We're going to be answering all questions that you have in architecture, pretty much everything that I could answer. If there's something that you guys ask that I don't know, that I don't have experience in, I'm not going to, lie to you guys. I'm basically going to jot down, make note of those questions, and then I'll go figure it out on my own, ask some friends, some colleagues, and then I'll get back to you guys. Basically, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read through some of the questions first that I got on the, what is it called? The community post that I've been doing on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have seen, but I've been like every single day asking some weird question, doing like a weird survey of like what your favorite material in architecture is and not, and all that stuff. So we're going to go through those in a little while, but I'm first going to answer the question of the people that wrote on those posts. Then on Instagram, it's just like a few questions, and then I'll get to you guys in the comments. But first, I just want to say what's up to some people here. So, hey, Danilo. See that you're saying hey. Hello, Luke Hinkle. Cool. All right. So let's get started. We're going to go ahead first and go through the questions I got on Instagram. So the first question that I see here is, I have experience in drafting, but no degree. How do I get a job in architecture drafting? This is a question actually that I've gotten a bunch of times. Basically, people want to know if, they know AutoCAD, maybe they know Revit, they know some sort of drafting program. And even for those of you guys who know how to render, you guys know how to create like really cool, complicated renderings, but you don't study architecture. Can you get a job in architecture? The answer is yes, definitely. There's actually a couple people that I've worked with in the past that didn't come from architecture. They came from like graphic design or similar careers out there, and they were able to get a job in architecture just because of the talent that they had. So this is answering Gray Fox _M on Instagram. Yes, you could get a job in architecture even if you don't have a background in architecture. My advice to you would be to basically make a resume and apply to a bunch of architecture firms and actually go in person. I know now because of COVID, it's hard to go in person to some of these firms, but maybe you can show up and just, knock on the door, wearing your mask or whatnot and asking, hey, can I just step in? I just want to leave a resume, and then explain your story, talk about your passion, how you want to get into the field, but you don't have an actual degree, and see where that will take you. I've heard a lot of basically like a lot of good stories from people doing that. So I really recommend that for those of you guys. Hey, Sento, how are you? Let's see. Oh, Beto likes the surveys that I've been doing. Okay, that's cool. Nice. So the next question is, if someone asks you what is architecture, what is your answer? Explain, please. Did you get asked this in school and now you want my answer? That's kind of like what it feels like, but I'm just messing with you. So what is architecture to me? So it's funny because on my first year of architecture, like my first semester, one of my teachers asked me to write down what architecture was. She asked everybody in the class, and I don't remember what I wrote, but one thing she told us is that architecture, the definition of architecture is going to change for you guys as you guys progress through the career. And that is so true, because at first I was obsessed with like the aesthetics, how buildings looked and whatnot. And I still do enjoy that. I still enjoy the experience, but Now architecture, to me, beside being about using the built environment to express and create emotions in people, it's more about trying to find solutions to complex problems that the world has to offer through architecture and trying to solve multiple solutions at once. So, for example, we talk a lot about sustainability. That's an example of how you're trying to solve a problem. If in the case of residential, for example, you're creating houses so people can live in, but through sustainability, you're also trying to solve some of the bigger problems that we have in the world right now, like through climate change and whatnot. So to me, architecture, and this is a different, if you ask different architects, you're going to get different answers. But to me, architecture is about trying to solve complex problems in the world through the built environment. I guess that would be like my definition of architecture in one line. What did you do your thesis on, Landon? I do actually have a video on that. And hey, Landon is he's a very active user on our Discord. If you guys are not familiar with, we actually have a Discord, and I've seen him a bunch of times. He's always on there. So join our Discord and make sure you say what's up to Landon. But yeah, Landon, I actually have a video on this, so check it out. It's like, I think it's one of my longest videos, and it was crazy. I don't suggest you guys do what I did in that video, but it was definitely like a weird thing that I did. And yeah, I think I don't think I want to say anything else for now on that. Let's see. So back to Instagram. Would you ever go back to an architecture office as an employee? Yes or no, and why? So I think this is from Spacey Spice on Instagram. I think they're under the impression that I don't work in architecture, or maybe I'm like self-employed. So no, I currently work at a firm. I've been working in a firm so in total, I've worked in a firm for about 5 years. I've worked in a total of 2 firms. But last year I took a year off from work, and I did a little bit of freelancing because I got the opportunity to design a fitness center. It was me, part of a very small team. And so this was a really high-end fitness center. It was super cool. We got to design like the entrance. There was like a reception. There was like what do they call, bathhouses in there. It was just wild, man. It was so wild. And I took a year off to do that. And back to your question, would I go back to architecture office as an employee? I mean, yeah, definitely. That's what I'm doing right now. So, yeah. Next question. There's 2 more. Nojus Colin wants to know, do you try to implement sustainability in your designs? If yes, how? Love your content. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, like I said, right now I'm working in a firm. So most of the projects that we're working on, they're group projects. And our studio has multiple like mini teams working on different projects. And overall, the goal of the firm is to try to implement sustainability as much as possible. But you guys got to remember that at the end of the day, it's up to the client what type of sustainability they want to pursue in your projects. We always try to educate them. So we always try to say, use this type of system to basically have less of a negative impact on the environment. And sometimes they'll go with it, sometimes not. At the end of the day, a lot of clients tend to go with whatever is costing less money, unfortunately. But luckily, a lot of these manufacturers, a lot of these companies that are creating some of these systems, they're figuring out a way to do it so that over time, it's actually better. It's going to save the client more money. So, for example, a lot of these air conditioning systems, right? They're more expensive, but in the long run, they're going to save the client more money, and it's actually going to be better for the environment. And they end up doing these things. So we try to educate the client as much as possible, and we also try to use whatever techniques we can that fit into the project that we're working on. So let's see here. We got a few of you guys saying, let's see what's going on in the chat. Do you ever plan on making your own architecture company? Yes, in the future, definitely. It's not my goal right now at the moment. At the moment, I'm just trying to learn as much as possible in the firm that I'm currently working on. If in the future, I do feel somehow that by me creating a company, I'll add some sort of value to the career, then definitely I'll plan on making that. But for now, I'm enjoying where I'm working on right now. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm I have this YouTube channel and I get to create cool content for you guys, and I plan on expanding that as well in the future. I hope to make like more mini documentaries as things get better with the whole COVID situation. I hope that like I can start to travel a little bit more, fly out to different destinations, and make like little mini documentaries for you guys on like the history of architecture and whatnot. So for now, no, there's no. I don't plan on making a firm, but I'm not against it either. Let's see. All right, so this question on Instagram is from Christian Aruba. He wants to know, what would you suggest to architecture students that are only at the start? So I welcome you guys here on the chat to answer along with me. If you guys have a different opinion to anything that I'm saying, definitely feel free to add your opinion in the chat. But my answer to you is, number one is to try to learn time management as soon as possible. This is like one of the hardest things to do because most of us are really bad at managing our time. We're never taught that in school for some reason. Like, we're just given a bunch of work. And I'm talking about like middle school and high school now, but in middle school and high school, we're just given tons of work, and the teachers are like, try to figure it out on your own. And so we never learn proper time management, unfortunately, and that's something that you need so much in architecture, like not only in school, but in the profession. So I would tell you guys to really, any beginner, is to really focus on time management, because everything else you're gonna learn in school. A lot of you guys sometimes are like, what programs should I learn before I start school and whatnot? It's cool, like definitely you should try to focus on learning some sort of program before school. But even if you don't, it's okay, because that's what school is for. You're gonna learn sketching, you're gonna learn how to draft, you're gonna learn all this stuff, but nobody's gonna teach you time management. You're gonna have to figure that out on your own. And the earlier you figure that out, the better. Something else, I try to learn about finance, a little bit of business. You don't need to know how to like run a business, but you need to know a little bit about how to save your money, how to invest your money, because architecture school is expensive. You're going to be spending a lot of money. And then once you get out of there, you're going to leave with a ton of debt from loans. And so you don't want to do that. So you want to try to get scholarships, and then learn how to make money, and then learn how to basically like figure out a way that you can take the money that you have and make it grow. Learn a little bit about that. So a little bit of finance, time management, and something more practical, I guess, for architecture school. What's something that would have helped me? I'm trying to think. Well, I would tell you to save your work, because unfortunately, I think I made a video on this. Unfortunately, like, I used to be super sloppy with my work. I'd save it in different files and different thumb drives, and now, unfortunately, I don't have any of my work that I did from design 1 through 4. And a lot of times I would trash my work, so I don't recommend you guys do that. For those of you guys that are just starting out, I don't care how bad you think your designs are or your sketches or anything. Just take pictures, scans. If you're making models, I don't care that they look terrible, that you hate them. Just document what you're making, because it's going to be so amazing to be able to go back and look at the progression, how once you started and you were terrible, and now to where you are in the future. So definitely that would be the 3 things that I recommend for you guys to do. So let's see, what is the name of an architect that designs residential luxurious houses? Okay, there's a few. I mean, I guess I'll give you local names. I'm based out of South Florida, so if you want a couple of like high-end residential, like really cool architecture, look up Max Strang. I don't know him personally. I have a few friends that have worked for him. He designs really, really cool stuff, and he's based out of Miami, so Miami, Florida. Who else? There was trying to think of someone else that I could give you that would also be local. I don't know. If it comes to me, definitely I'll let you know. All right, so Batul says, I love architecture so much, but sometimes I lose motivation due to staying at home and not actually being at university. Any advice to motivate ourselves? Love your content, by the way. So much love. Thank you, man. Love you too. Love all you guys. Yeah, dude, motivation is one of the toughest things to deal with, because let's be honest, when we're not feeling motivated, we don't feel like doing anything. The only way that I've ever been able to spark motivation is to just follow people that I look up to in architecture, and even not in architecture. So on YouTube, for example, I'm going to give you an example. There's this YouTuber called 10hun, right? 1000. Let me know if you guys know who he is. But 1000 is this YouTuber who just creates like amazing content in the realm of art. And now I have nothing to do with art. I don't create art. I don't do what he does. But just seeing how passionate he is about what he's doing really motivates me. So basically, what I'm trying to say is like try to follow people that you look up to, follow them on Instagram, on YouTube, and try to like stay in tune with what they're doing. Sometimes I feel that helps me, like just watching other people that are like doing their own thing. It really motivates me. It's able to help me get back to do what I'm doing. Something else that I was going to mention about that is that a lot of times it's not motivation that you need. It's a lot of times we don't do things because we're kind of like afraid of starting something. Like when you wake up in the day, right? If you have to study for a test or something like that, a lot of times you're like, I don't feel like doing it. Like in your subconscious, you just don't feel like doing it. And you're putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. And that pressure is building up and it's making it even harder to start. So what I do, for example, when I'm working on YouTube, the first thing that I do when I get home is that I turn on my computer. Even if I'm not going to sit down and work, I just turn it on and then I walk away. And just having that computer turned on, it stays in the back of my mind like, man, that thing is turned on. I should probably get to work. And then just like, it's like magic. I just come and I sit down and I start to work. I'll turn on the computer and I'll open up one of the programs that I'm going to be using, Rhino, Revit, whatever it is. That's what I recommend for you guys. If you guys have to design a model or design a project rather, go and just turn on your computer, open up the program and just start designing, start sketching, start something. Because a lot of times it's not motivation that you need. It's just that kick, the kick to just start something. So that's my advice to you. Now let's go to the questions that I asked on, I think I saw someone say that they went to Miami-Dade College. You are from South Florida. LOL, I went to Miami-Dade College. Yeah, MDC is Miami-Dade College. Yeah, what's up, man? That's so cool. So that's Beto saying that. Yeah, Miami-Dade College, I actually went there. I went there, when did I go there? I started there in 2012. I did my design 1 through 4 there. Then I graduated in 2014 or 15, I think. And then I started at FIU, Florida International University. That's another question that I get all the time is like, what school did you go to? What university? And I went to Florida International University. It's a pretty good school. I have nothing bad to say about it. It's definitely like not one of the other like SciArc or anything like that, but it was a pretty good school. Yeah, so let's go over here to the questions that I asked on let me see. I probably should have had this open before. It was on the community. That's what it was. All right, so we'll start out with Dan Vu. So Dan Vu wants to know, and again, this was on the community tab. It's what are some design-heavy branches of architecture for undergraduate students to explore as a career that is not becoming a licensed architect? Well, like I kind of mentioned before, if you are an undergraduate, you don't plan on going to graduate school, and you just don't want to continue your studies, you could technically work in a firm. You won't get licensed because to get licensed, you have to go to accredited university. This is in the United States, at least. And so you don't have to become a licensed architect, but you could definitely work as an undergraduate and you can, advance pretty far in a firm without being licensed, because as long as there's a licensed architect working in the firm, they could sign and seal the documents and you don't have to worry about that. So if you like architecture, definitely apply to architecture firms. But if you want to do something else, graphic design is something that people do. There's kind of a new one. It's a UX and UI design. So user experience and user interface. Look into that. What that is for basically whenever you use an app or you use a website, the way that it's designed, the way that it looks, someone designed that. And so it's very like people are making the argument that it's very similar to architecture, because in architecture, you have to create diagrams, you have to do a lot of studies, you have to understand the site, you have to basically do all this analysis before you start to design. And then once you start to design, your design hopefully responds to some of the problems that you had at the beginning, some of the problems that you identified, and then you find solutions for them. And so through UX and UI design, you're basically creating studies of websites and apps to imagine and understand what a user of the website or of the app is going to experience when they go on this app or website. So basically, you're going to be designing the experience for them. So it's kind of related to architecture because architecture is also about the experience. And so there's tons of video. I'm not going to make videos on my channel, at least now on that, because I have no experience with that, but it's something that I've done a lot of reading on. And it seems pretty promising. There's a lot of architecture majors and architecture students and even architects that have transitioned from architecture into that. And then one last thing, product design. Product design is something that I've heard of people doing. I don't know how you get into that, but your knowledge in modeling using Rhino, using Maya, using Blender, these programs are pretty promising in the world of product design. So check those out. I'm kind of jumping back and forth, by the way, so I'm going to be going into the community tab where I won't have access to your chat, and then I'll jump back here to see what you guys are saying on the chat. So any architecture podcasts you really recommend? That's, again, Beto, and I'm sorry, guys, that I'm picking him, but it's just that that's the name that I see. Yeah, I'll answer your question really quick. So there's a few that I listen to. I don't love architecture podcasts because they tend to be a little bit boring. No offense. I tend to listen mostly to other kinds of podcasts. Like I listen to Joe Rogan a lot just because I'm doing architecture all day long. And so I kind of sometimes while I'm working, I don't want to continue listening about, to architecture. I want to learn about other things like about science and space and, whatever Joe Rogan guest is talking about that day. But yes, there's, they used to be called the Design Charrette, I think they were called. And now they're called Second Studio. So look into Second Studio. It's these two architects that basically, what I like about their podcast is that their podcast is not really that boring, right? And I'm sorry, I don't mean this in an offensive way. I'm just trying to be honest, but like they're very casual how they talk. A lot of these other podcasts that I've listened to, they're kind of like, they talk, very low and they use very large words and they're like architecture, this and that. And so, that's just so boring for me. I like this. I like a casual conversation. And then these guys from the podcast Second Studio, they do that. Another podcast that I like is The Business of Architecture with Enoch. I think it's called The Business of Architecture. He talks about literally the business of architecture. So I don't really recommend that for those of you guys who are just starting out. This is more for you guys who are getting closer to graduating or those of you who are working at a firm. The reason I recommend this is because you guys are going to learn pretty quickly once you start working in a firm that business is so important. And they don't teach us business in school, right? In architecture school. And so if someone asks about running a firm, if you want to run a firm one day, or even if you want to be a project manager, if you want to be the one who's managing these projects at a firm, knowing about business is going to be so important because you're going to have to know about insurance. You're going to have to know about how to pay people, right? If you have like 10 workers under you, who do you assign to what project depending on how much experience they have and how much they're getting paid and whatnot. So it's very complicated. So The Business of Architecture is really interesting. And then one more podcast, Clever. It's not really about architecture. It's called Clever. It's more about design. That one, they often bring architects or other type of designers into the podcast. And I love that show because it's a fun show where, you get to learn about other interior designers or like shoe designers or whatnot. And they talk about their process of design and how they got started. So if there's any of you guys that are listening to this, any of you guys that are on the chat, that one day want to like do something really cool, something that's like out of the ordinary. I think Clever kind of inspires you to do that. Let's see. Let's pick someone other than Beto. You rock too, man. But let's see. Is it worth Okay, so this says the 808. Is it worth doing architecture if the architecture pay is very average? I get this question so often. And even my own professors back in university, they would tell me, like, don't do architecture, the pay is really bad. My experience is not that. Yes, I do have friends that paid less to go to school for some other career, and they're making way more money than I am. But I find that, like, when it comes to stress, like, I have much less stress than they do because I'm getting paid basically to draw. Like, I always make that joke. Like, me personally, I'm getting paid to design, to create really cool stuff. Yeah, I have boring days at work sometimes. That's inevitable in any field. But at least I'm having fun. I'm in a super creative environment. Like, luckily, the firm that I work at is kind of like how school was, where it was just like It's just like a giant space full of like a bunch of people. There's music playing. There's different groups of people talking. Some people are sketching. Some people are making 3D models on our 3D printers. Some people are, making code on Dynamo. It's like, how cool is that? Not many people that I know have that experience at work. So, unfortunately, you don't want to get paid nothing. So what I would recommend is that whatever country that you're in, check to see like what the average pay is. And maybe if you don't agree with what that average pay is for an architect, then don't become, okay, I don't want to say that. I was going to say don't become an architect. But what I meant to say is become a specialized architect, specialize in something, specialize in lighting, specialize in facades, what the exterior of the building is. That's something else that they didn't teach us in school. In school, like teachers, everybody, like they teach you to be a designer, right? And they want you to focus on everything. And that's okay, I guess. I mean, I have my own like concerns with the way that school is set up. But I would say don't think that, that you're going to just be the head designer. You got to think outside of the box. Like, I said lighting design, I said facade design. There's a bunch of companies out there that are specialists in something. And when you're a specialist in construction or in any technical side of architecture, chances are you're going to get paid way more. So people always tell you like, oh, don't do things because of money, blah, 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 blah. That's true. I agree with that. But, realistically, like when you're just starting out, you're not really concerned with that. Like you are concerned with the money. I mean, you're about to spend so much money on going to school. So you want to, you're concerned about how much money you're going to make in the future. And so I would say is like, just rest assured that if you do like architecture, you're going to find a way to make more money, okay? And keep in mind that there's not only one path. There's millions of paths, okay? You could become a specialist in like the history of architecture. There's so many things you can do. I can't give you the answer because I don't have experience with those things, but I could tell you to keep an open mind and network, guys. Network is going to be the key to unlocking the biggest possibilities for you guys out there, okay? And network doesn't mean like a lot, like it doesn't mean go out there and be friendly to everybody or try to, like add everybody on social media. No. It just means that try to be as friendly with the people that you meet and be genuinely interested in the lives of others, because you'll never know what places those other people could take you, okay? So, so keep an open mind, network, make a lot of friends. I went off on a tangent there. Let's see here. Oh, let's go back to the community. Let's see. If given a choice for an architecture student, would you recommend an iPad, a laptop, or a desktop? This is an easy question to answer. I would definitely say a laptop. So if you're a beginner, right, you're just starting out, I would say laptop, right? A tablet, an iPad, right? Or not only an iPad, but a tablet in general. Yes, they're useful, but if you had to pick one of the three, a laptop, because when you're starting out, you're going to be doing a lot of moving around. You're going to be working in school. You're going to be working at the library. You're going to be working at home. And so you need your work to travel with you. And so a laptop is a must. As you go through and get deeper into your studies, you're probably going to want to invest in a desktop. Okay, why? Because a lot of your designs and a lot of your renderings are going to take up a lot of processing power. And if you try to get that type of power from a laptop, it's going to get really expensive. So an advice that I like to give sometimes to people is to consider getting not the best laptop. Like leave your laptop for drafting, like creating your plans, and then leave your desktop at home for rendering, because you don't need to be rendering at school. You could be rendering at home. But then, that also doesn't make all that much sense, especially at the end, because, once you get into like some really complex designs, you're going to need to have a lot of processing power, even if you're not rendering. So, but yeah, I would say laptop, definitely. Laptop is my answer. And then desktop and iPad, they're more like luxuries. Where did you go to college? Also, what made you want to get into architecture, and what are your favorite parts? So, let's see, where did I go to college? I went to Miami-Dade College in Miami, and that was my undergrad, and then my graduate, where I got my master's degree. That was in FIU, Florida International University. What made you get into architecture? So it's so weird. I was actually, before I wanted to do architecture back in high school, if you would have asked me what I wanted to do, I was going to be a firefighter. Why? I have no idea. It's just like something that seemed cool, just seemed fun. And then I had a boss. I used to work in an insurance agency back when I was like 16 years old, and and my boss was like, he was a cool guy. He told me, he's like, it's cool that you want to be a firefighter, but what happens if you get injured at a young age? You're not gonna be able to do anything else. And so that kind of scared me that he said that. And he's like, is there anything else that you would like to do? And I couldn't think of anything, right? And so luckily, like a month after I had that conversation with my boss, I went over to a cousin's house. He lived pretty far from me. We had like a little family reunion, and I didn't know I knew of him, but I didn't really hang out with him too much. I barely talked to him. And then I went over his house, and his room was like full of like a bunch of boxes and like many models and stuff. And I had no idea what that was back in high school. And I was like, hey man, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm studying architecture. And then I'm like, really? What? Like, can you tell me more about that? And he showed me all the models and all the sketches that he was doing. And I was like, what the heck? Like, that's what school is? I thought school was going to be like how school is now, where I'm learning about math and like chemistry and all this boring stuff. And he was like, no, in architecture school, your classes are drawing, and you're listening to music, and you're on your computer making like building houses and building buildings and whatnot. And I was like, oh man, that is so cool. Okay, that's what I want to do. And so that's basically how I got into architecture. And so what is my favorite part of architecture? Definitely design. I feel like, if you're getting into architecture, it's because you like to design. And actually at work, one of my lights turned off. Hold on. Definitely at work, I do a lot of Revit. And one of my favorite, this is probably gonna sound so boring, but I think like the younger version of myself would have been like, dude, you are a boring old man. But one of my favorite things to do at work is working on schedules, which schedules is like, they're basically like spreadsheets that contain all the information of the project, like the doors, the windows, the storefront. I love working on those things because I like the data. I like figuring out all the information of the building, and I like to see it in numbers, and I like to make sure that everything that's on those spreadsheets works. I also like rendering, I like creating designs, and I like learning in general. So anything that has to do with learning and I enjoy. In architecture, you're always learning. You're never going to stop learning. So that's what I love about it. So this other person asked, is it a good idea to quit architecture? I don't know if that was supposed to be a joke or not, but is it my other light turned off. Jesus. Is it a good idea to quit architecture? I mean, it's only a good idea if you are not enjoying what you're doing, but a little bit of caution. If you're not enjoying school, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be good at the profession, okay? So be careful, guys, because a lot of times what you're doing in school has nothing to do with what you're going to be doing at work. So keep that in mind, okay? My advice to everybody is to try to get a job while you're going to school. It's going to be hard, but try to get a part-time job that doesn't interfere with your school, and try to see if you enjoy doing that, because that's a better way of knowing if you're going to like architecture or not. And even then, sometimes you're going to get a job that is going to suck, and that has nothing to do with architecture. It's just that the firm that you're at is horrible. So I don't know, just try to talk to other people, get a job, and try to really see if you really don't like. If you really don't like it, then definitely, architecture is not the only thing out there. There's tons of stuff that you can do. Let's see. So what's up, everybody? Everybody else that's joined. RG, peace, thumbs up to you. Let's see here. Someone that I haven't talked to yet. Okay, so Yash, can you show us some of your work? Anything, doesn't have to be good, but one of your first designs. Yeah, I have videos on my channel on that. There's a video that I talk about my thesis, so it's actually the last school project that I work on. But do you mean professional work, like stuff that I'm working on now? Unfortunately, stuff that I'm working on now, I can't really show because we have contracts that don't let us do that. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I have anything lying around that I could just show real quickly. No, I don't have anything here. But yeah, I have a video. I will make a new video soon, talking more about going through my projects back when I was at school, and I'll make sure to show you like the crappy ones too. Those are fun. Let's see. I'm trying to go back to like some of the old ones. Oh, okay. So Archie School. Any advice for growing an architecture YouTube channel? Oh, dude, I have no idea how to grow an architecture YouTube channel. No, I'm kidding. Yes. So try to be consistent. I think that the reason that I haven't grown faster is probably because I'm all over the place. Like it helps if if you find a niche. So this goes to anybody like that's thinking of starting a YouTube channel. Not only architecture, like by all means, if you want to create an architecture YouTube channel, you're welcome. There's a few YouTubers now doing this, and it's really cool. I'm happy to see that there's people interested in creating channels on this. But for anybody that wants to create their own YouTube channel, I would say try to find a niche. If you're thinking of creating a YouTube channel and you don't know like what to create it on, like try not to copy what someone else is doing, because that's the hardest way to grow. Instead, try to see what your interests are. Like, what's the one thing that you love to do so much? Like, even if you're obsessed with like a show, right? Just like one show, you can make a YouTube channel just dedicated to that one show. And that actually makes it better because there's less people out there doing that same thing. Okay. So my point, like, let's say you love cheese. I bet you there's a YouTube channel on that, but it doesn't matter. Even if there's other people doing that channel, just find a niche, find something that makes you stand out and just only make content on that. Try not to like do too much because that hurts you. And yeah, like, let's see, what other advice can I give you? Archie School. Is it Archie School? I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Archie School. I mean, just try to make content try to make content that people are looking for. Okay. So sometimes if you go like on my comments or other architecture channels, you go on that comments or even on Reddit, see what kind of questions people are asking and make content on that, because the best way that you can grow a channel is by helping others. And that's really going to help you grow. So that's my advice to you. Let's see, Landon, might be a cool video idea if you do an interview with current architecture students around the world that are part of your community to see what architecture school is in different countries. It's so funny that you say that because I actually had that thought a little while ago. Definitely, unfortunately, the thing right now is that I have no time. So I have all these cool ideas. Like I have this sketchbook that I just have filled with tons of ideas of things that I want to do. I just don't have time to do any of those things right now. But hopefully in the future, I can figure out a way to have more time to do these things. And then I'll be able to do things like that because I love that. I love that so much. But Tool, have you worked outside the US before or maybe planning to? I did a project once. Okay. I did a project once that was in Trinidad. It was in Port of Spain, and it was a hospital. I was part of a small team on that. It was for a competition. Really cool. Like we had hospital consultants that were basically doing the hard work for us, like how many hospital beds we needed, like helping us stay within the code and whatnot. And we were just like focused on like the concept, making the building look cool and whatnot. Unfortunately, we didn't win that project, but that was a super fun project to work on. And yeah, that was in Trinidad. But I unfortunately didn't get to travel over there because it was only a competition. But if we would have won, we would have had to travel. That would have been cool. I have traveled to parts of the United States for architecture with my firm. I've traveled to like Erie, Pennsylvania. So shout out to Erie if anybody's from there. I highly doubt it because it felt like a tiny little town. But that was another hospital project that I did there. That was pretty cool. I'm not working in hospitals anymore. That was another firm that I worked at. Now I'm doing residential, which is so much better in my opinion. I love residential. Let's see. How long have you been doing YouTube? I'm coming up on like 3 years right now. In September, my anniversary is September 2nd. That's when I first started my first, I did my first video. I had no idea what the heck I was doing, and I'm a little bit better now, which is good. Hello, I'm Bobby J. I think you just met Bobby. Bobby Price. I subscribed to your channel about a few days ago, thinking of becoming an architect. Awesome, Bobby. I wish you luck. Feel free to join our Discord. We have a Discord channel. If you go out in the description, so this is for all you guys. I have a website now. It's called Mooch PH. So PH, for those of you that don't know what PH stands for, it stands for pigeon head. And I'll answer that question actually. Let's talk about the pigeon. But yes, but go to what up, PA? There we go. Oh, PA, yeah. Shout out to PA, baby. But yeah, moochph, okay, .com. I'm working on it now. I'm adding more content to it. But if you go there, like links to all our social medias there. We have a Discord channel. So Bobby, if you have questions on architecture, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to continue watching my architecture videos. Look at other YouTubers that are creating architecture content, like our friend over here, Archie School. Check him out. I'm not familiar with your project, unfortunately, or your YouTube channel, unfortunately, Archie School. But check their stuff out. Check other stuff out. Read a lot of books on architecture. Just get as much information as possible. And don't try not to overwhelm yourself. But good luck, Bobby. I do wish you a lot of luck. Let's see. Andrew Hart, what's your favorite unbuilt project of yours and or another designer? Favorite unbuilt? Wow, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to get back to that one because I can't think of one right now. I'm trying to think of other. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to that one. All right, so any good books about architecture? Yes. Give me 1 second, guys. Someone type in the chat, letting people know that I'll be right back. I'm just gonna grab a couple books here. All right, I'm back, guys. So here I have 2 books. Okay, the first one, this one is if you're in the US, you like residential, or even if you're not in the US, but it's American House Styles. Unfortunately, there's like a lag in let me see, hold on. Okay, this book right here, American House Styles, it's such a good like reference book to have if you traveled like through the US. It's just, it shows you little images and it gives you like the little motifs that you find in whatever residential style that you're visiting. It tells you like a little bit. It's like a concise reference book on the different type of architecture. It's small. It's like a little pocketbook. You take it with you when you travel. Really recommend this one. Again, it's American House Styles, and it's by John Milnes Baker. Another one, this I recommend for a lot of you guys, your architecture career. This book is so good. Unfortunately, I read it like way after I graduated. I wish I would have had this book when I first started architecture. This basically breaks down what happens to you after you graduate. So it talks about getting your first job, what your portfolio and resume should look like. It even tells you a little bit about how to start your own firm. So this thing is amazing. Another book that's not an architecture book, but it's so good for creatives like us, right, is the War of Art. So not The Art of War, which I think I have that book. All right, so this is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. This is like a military strategy book. Amazing, super good book. Not this one. I'm not talking about this one. I'm talking about The War of Art. It's by Stephen Pressfield. I don't have a physical copy of that book. I only have a digital version of that book. That book is so good. And someone asked who wrote this book, Your Architecture Career. It was Gary Unger. Gary Unger, I've actually emailed him before and asked him questions, and he answers. So, yeah, Yeah, he's a good author. But yeah, so the War of Art, okay, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That book actually talks about why it's so hard for us to stay motivated. So someone was asking that question before. I should have referenced that book back then. It just talks about that book is magical. It shows you the importance of just starting things and not thinking, not dwelling on starting them, but it basically talks about how to fuel your creativity. So again, that is The War of Art, not The Art of War, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Highly recommend that book. Let's see. Danilo says that they have that book. Which one do you have? Which book do you have, Danilo? Let me know. And if you guys have any other suggestions for books, let me know, because the more the merrier, definitely. What other books are there? Oh, one more book. Two more books. Not one more, two more books. The History of Architecture. This book, super powerful book. Who wrote this one? This one is from... It just says Rolf Toman. I don't know if you guys can see. No, you guys won't be able to see it. Rolf Toman. Okay, this book, it just breaks down in order all the major styles of architecture, the history, and it talks about everything. And what I love about it is that the book is divided into sections. So it talks about first the different styles, and then it talks about, like, let's go first to the beginning page. So let's see here. So yeah, it first starts out with like antiquity, then it goes into the Middle Ages, all the way through the 20th century. Yeah, this book is phenomenal. So check this one out. And then finally, well, two more. Okay, one more. Man, they keep popping up into my head. Architect as Developer. I don't remember who wrote that book. Architect as Developer. That's for those of you guys who like architecture but don't necessarily want to become licensed architects. You instead want to be developers. You guys want to create like super cool buildings. Like, if you guys want to create super cool buildings in the future, you have better chances of doing that if you guys are developers. So learning how to be a developer, that is just straight up business, okay? And it's basically, that book is awesome because it helps you understand why architects should be developers, because a lot of times you have a developer who has the money and this guy is telling the architect what to do. And then the architect's like trying to tell the developer, like, no, you shouldn't do this. And the developer's like, no, I need to make more money, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying all developers are like that. I'm just saying, like, I'm just stereotyping right now. And so if you, the architect, are the architect and the developer, you understand the business, you understand how to get the money, and then at the same time, you understand architecture, you're putting those two things together, it's super powerful. So architect as developer, there's a course, I haven't done it yet, I'm gonna do it in the future. It's by, what's his name? Man, my memory is failing me today, but let me just Google it. I could Google, I forgot I could Google. Architect as developer. It's like Jason or Jonathan Siegel, I think. Jonathan Siegel. Guys, look him up. Jonathan Siegel. He's an architect who became a developer, and he's creating the coolest residential projects out in California right now. And not only is he making cool stuff, he decides what it looks like. He decides how sustainable it is. And he's making a ton of money. So that book. And then finally, of course, Bjarke Ingels, Yes is More, not Less is More, Yes is More. For those of you guys who know a little bit about Bjarke Ingels, you might know that he was first a lot of guys don't like Bjarke Ingels. I think it's because he's too playful. Like, a lot of his designs are crazy and he doesn't really respect historical styles. He kind of just does whatever his imagination leads him to do, which I enjoy that. That's what I like about Bjarke Ingels. But before he became an architect, he was actually, I think, in animation or something similar. He was like drawing, and he decided to become an architect or to study architecture because he wanted to get better at like designing landscapes. And that's basically how the story goes, supposedly, at least the anecdote. But he basically breaks down projects that he's done in the form of a comic book. Right, so that's what his interest was back then. You know, he he used to draw and create cartoons. And so I think he was a cartoonist. And so I love this so much. This was such a creative way to make a portfolio, basically do it in the style of a comic book. And so he shows up every once in a while. I don't know if you can see it with like little chat bubbles, and he's talking about, or thought bubbles, like, you know, what's going on in the project, like what he did. So this is a good book too. But enough about books, guys. I don't want to bore you guys. What does a developer mean? I'm glad you asked that. So a developer, okay, they don't teach this in school, unfortunately, and I wish they did. When you, okay, how can I put this simply without boring you guys? An architect, yes, they design the building, but they don't pay for the building. Who pays for the building? The client does, right? But a lot of times the client is not one guy. It tends to be like either the government or it tends to be like a company or something. Most of the time it's a developer. A developer is someone who has a lot of money and they pay an architect to design a project. But at the end of the day, the developer is really the boss. He kind of tells the architect what to do. And so even though an architect knows so much and we do super cool things, if we're not the ones that are putting down the money, we're really not calling the shots. So being a developer is so important. And so just what a developer is someone who has money, they're buying land, they're purchasing land or acquiring land, and they're paying for everything to get built. And so a lot of, like, I used to think like I'll never be a developer because I'm poor as hell. You know, I grew up like not rich at all. I grew up like really like low income family. And so I never thought I could be a developer or anything like that. But like as I learned more through the years, I realized that developers don't use their own money. Developers find investors and they get loans and they get grants and they basically know how to get money. They don't use their own money. So learning about business once again and learning about finances is so important in the world because it's really going to help you reach your goals. So if you want to create super cool architecture, you want to change the world, it takes money, unfortunately, to do these things. And so if you can learn how to acquire money, right, that's going to be so important. And if you know about architecture, it's even better because you know what good design is. You know how to solve complex problems through this built environment. So that's what a developer is. You are awesome. Thank you, Erica. I appreciate that. Books are awesome. Yes, I agree, Beto. Let's see. Jason, you're awesome. You're awesome too. Vallento says, starting second year of architecture today. Round of applause for you. That's awesome. Good luck. You know, hang in there. It's going to be tough. It's a tough road ahead, but hang in there. Yes is More is one of my favorite books right now. It is. This book actually inspired me a lot. You know, like I got this book, I think like 3 years ago. Maybe 4, maybe 5, I don't know. But like, I remember sometimes I was in school and I was like, I don't know what to design. My designs are garbage. And I would just open this up and just go through and I'd be like, holy crap. Like Bjark just started super simple. Like he just started with a cube and turned that into like a super cool project. So let me kind of follow in his footsteps, and it helped me get out of like really dark spots. Yes, please answer Edward's question. Edward, where are you? Oh, can you go through the process of what an architect does in building a house? Okay, so, okay. I gotta like think about what I'm gonna say here because I don't want to give too much information. So, what's the process like? So you have an architect, and I'm gonna assume that you want to talk about what like an architect, like a client, let's say like one person, like let's say me, right? I'm a person that wants to design like a house, so I'm gonna hire an architect. So the client hires the architect, and the client has X amount of money, whatever. What the architect does is has a conversation with the client, and then before they do any designing, before they do anything, they first have to go through signing contracts. These contracts in the US are usually provided by the AIA. And so if you Google AIA contracts, you'll see things like the B101, the A201. So those are basically the contracts. And it's good that you guys should start to get familiar with these contracts because a lot of that language you're going to need as you progress through the career. But you're basically going to have the client sign these contracts, and you're going to basically decide what the fee is going to be on that project and whatnot. Once you get all that business stuff out of the way, which is why I always say business is so important, they don't teach us that in school. Once you get that business stuff out of the way, the architect starts to create analysis. So I'm going to assume that this client already has a piece of land. It's just an empty plot of land and they want to design a house there. And so the architect is now going to start to study the site. The architect is going to start to study basically the region. If the site is in a neighborhood, he's going to study the neighborhood, study the climate in the area, the macro and the microclimate. Basically try to gather as much information so that when the architect starts to design, everything that he does in the design responds positively to all the external stimulants. So if it rains a lot in the site, for example, he's going to want to protect that house from rains and floods. And he's also going to hopefully try to collect some of that rain. And also he's going to think about the landscape, what kind of vegetation is going to be on site. Hopefully it's something that is already available on site, something that is not, something that's local, something that's not like imported in, because whenever you start to import things like trees and materials from other places, it gets more expensive. It's worse for the environment. So starts to do all this study and all this stuff, starts to create little diagrams, having constant communication with the client, trying to decide what is the path that they want to go. Once they achieve a program, which that's what we call a program, is basically like a study of what kind of characteristics this project is going to have. So how many rooms, how big it's going to be and whatnot. Once we get to that point, then what we do is we enter something that's called schematic design, the schematic phase. And what the schematic phase is where we start to generate some plans. We start to make architectural plans, a set of documents, but we don't really go too much into detail. We're basically creating the overall design, the room, we're doing we're basically creating the whole plan, but it's not super detailed. Once the client approves on that, we move over into the design phase, or often called the DD, design development phase. In the design development phase, you're basically tweaking and adding more information. And then finally, you get into the construction document phase, which is the CD phase. And that's when you're doing the schedules that I was talking about. You're adding more information, being specific about what kind of what companies you're going to be using to add the windows and the doors and whatnot. And something I forgot is you're going to right at the beginning in those contracts, you're going to talk about what kind of consultants you're going to hire. Consultants are people that are going to help you. Remember, an architect has to have an overall understanding of how the building works, but an architect doesn't know the answer to everything. So he hires other people, subconsultants that'll help him. So we hire structural engineers in some cases. We hire electrical engineers, which is MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. They basically help us with the mechanical, which is the HVAC, which is the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and cooling of the house. If we need lighting designers, we hire those too. We hire landscape architects. Sometimes we hire interior designers. It really depends what we agree with the client, and it's really complicated, like what kind of consultants we hire. But basically, we go all the way through the CD phase, which is the construction documents phase. That's when we're really making this set, like a set that now a contractor could take, and using that almost like an IKEA handbook, they can start to build our design. So if you want to kind of like visualize it a little bit, a schematic set is more for the client. It's more kind of like showing the client and the architect what this thing is, like what the overall idea is. And then the construction documents, it's for actual construction. And each of these builds on the last. So you got SDs, schematic, you got DDs, design development, and you got CDs, which is construction documents. And then once you do that, it starts getting built by the contractor. Once the contractor's building it, he's going to have a lot of questions on some of the things don't make sense the way that you drew them. Hopefully that's not the case, but it will be the case. And so then he submits RFIs, which is request for information, which is basically like him like, hey, what the heck did you mean here? You drew two doors right next to each other. Is that really what you want to do? Or whatever other questions he comes up with. And then after that, your project is complete, and then you get to move on to another one. So that's kind of like a really simplified version of like the really complex experience of what it's like to design a house for a client. Let's see. Okay, Landon, do you find it difficult to talk about architecture to people from around the world when architecture is so regionalist and site-specific? Yeah, it really is difficult because America has no specific architectural style. Certain places have um, what you would call the vernacular, but you don't really see that too much in America. Like in Florida, for example, we have the shotgun style house, and so, but you don't really see that. You know, like what I'm trying to say here is like architecture in other parts of the world is older, so it's really respected, and architects want to continue to commemorate that style. So you don't really have like all this modern stuff happening. And in America, there's really like no language, like everything's just random. So I've noticed that when I talk to people from other parts of the world, they kind of like look down on our architecture because they're almost like you don't respect the culture. You have no culture because their view on architecture is a way for culture to express itself. Because if you look at architecture through history, like the Egyptians with the pyramids and the Gothic architecture, architecture was a response to the culture. Okay. It was a way for them to express their beliefs in their religion. It was a way for them to show off their technological advances. Going back to Gothic architecture, they were able to create taller buildings, almost reaching the heavens. And so our architecture doesn't really do that. Like our architecture sometimes, unfortunately, tends to be cookie cutter. And so it's sad. So like, yeah, we're almost looked down upon by other countries. And yeah, it makes it really difficult to talk about with other people. Lobo, hello. How are you? Let's see. Joanna Hernandez, roofers rule. I agree with that 100%. Let's see. Groovy Noodles. This is extremely interesting. I just got my very first project. Thank you, Mooch team, for this. Really? Let us give us some more information on that. I'm really interested to know what kind of project it was, and I'm excited for you. That's awesome. Adam, how's it going, big dog? How's it going, buddy? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you everybody who's tuning in now. I really appreciate that. Let's see. I'm going back. I like jumping. I'm jumping around in the chat because I tend to miss a lot of it. It says. This is from Internet Savvy YT. Ah, man, someone else typed in. Hold on. Do architects and interior designers work together on one project, or they would tag team? That really depends. I've been part of projects where the architects hand off the project to the interior designers, and then they kind of finish it. I don't like that. I prefer to work together. As many people as you can have on the team. At the same time, to me, that's the best because you guys can make informed decisions and work together to shape this project. So like if I'm working on a project and I have an interior designer that's gonna get the project after me and then I'm gonna go work on something else, chances are that project's gonna lose the touch that I put into it. And so there was a lot of things that I did and that weren't for aesthetics, for example, that an interior designer might change that they weren't aware of. They thought that I did that there was no reason for me to do that, and they changed it. Same thing with like a contractor. A lot of times contractors join the project at the very end, and that's not good. I really recommend that you have a contractor on the team from the very beginning because they're able to guide you. They're like if you're designing something, they're able to tell you like, hey, that you're designing right there is going to be really expensive. Like we could build it, but it's going to be really expensive. And so knowing all this information like right at the beginning. It's good to know. So yeah, going back to your question, there's a little bit of everything. There's a little bit of working together, and there's a little bit of tag team, and that goes with everything, with landscape designers, with interior designers, with everything. Most of the time, like I would say 100% of the time, the only consultants that you have from the very beginning are the MEP engineers, the structural engineers, and that's it. If you're working like in an auditorium, you have like an audio specialist and a lighting specialist from the very beginning. But other than that, like, and sometimes you have landscape and civil and stuff, but they usually join in at the end. Civil tends to like work at the very beginning and then they kind of like leave and then they come back every once in a while. But yeah, let's see. RG, you are awesome. You are awesome too, RG. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yash, is architecture a dying profession? Great question. I don't think it's dying. I think it's changing. If you look at the history of architecture as a profession, I mean, and focusing more in like the 20th century, architects have really changed because before architects used to do everything by hand and life was much slower. So projects would take longer to complete. Architects had got to spend way more time working on a project. And so they really paid more attention to it. I don't want to say that. That doesn't sound right. And it's not true. Architects, but it's almost like all of their attention was dedicated to that one project. Now, because of technological advances, architects are able to do more work at the same time. And also architects, like, there's way more consultants now that you can hire. So you're able to do like 10 projects at once because you're not really doing everything on that one project. You're just doing a portion of it and overseeing it, making sure it's going smoothly. And then your other consultants are kind of like adding information to it. So going back to the question, I'm sorry I keep going off tangent, guys, but I don't think it's a dying profession. I think it's changing. I think the future of architecture is going to be even more of like an overseer. It's going to be like, we're kind of just like, we're going to be continuing to design, of course. We're going to be designing, but we're mostly going to hand off the work to other consultants. That's kind of what I see for the profession. And I don't know if that's good or bad, really. I just think it's different, okay? A lot of us, like, we think it's bad because, you know, we're afraid of change. But, I mean, I like the way that architecture is now, so I don't see why it would, like, you know, go get worse over time. I think it'll continue to get better. It's just going to be different, but I don't think it's dying. Landon, am I awesome? Yes, you are awesome, man. M. Madrid, how do you think AI is used in architecture? So I don't have any experience with AI. I've seen like there's a little bit, actually, yes, there's a little bit of AI being used in Revit right now where like you'll pick a space and like, let's say you have a furniture, like different types of furniture. There's a new feature in Revit where the AI can decide what like how you should place a furniture in the space to either get more furniture in the space or have more space around each furniture or have the best like layout for whatever, you know, like whatever the metric is. I don't really know. I haven't used it, but I know that AI is kind of helping create designs now. We're not there yet. Okay. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but as AI gets a little bit better, it's definitely going to help us solve a lot of issues. Like, I think that AI is going to help us basically figure out all those little tedious things. For example, when I'm working on Revit on a project, I'm usually working in a team with other architects. And a lot of times those other architects are making changes to the model and I'm not aware of it. Not aware all the time because these are big projects that I'm working on and I'm not aware of all the changes that are happening, especially if like our communications is not that good that day because we're like in meetings and running around and stuff. And so I think AI is going to kind of help us make sure that we stay on track. And I think AI is going to help us kind of like make sure that we're not destroying our projects. So I don't have experience, unfortunately, with AI, but that's a good question. I know there's a bunch of cool stuff being done out there. Like I saw this video once on YouTube where they had these drones building like these structures. It would like pick up bricks and they were in sync building these like weird structures. And they were using a little bit of AI for that. And that was pretty cool. But yeah, let me see. Tika, will this stream be archived? I think I missed the question about architecture book recommendation above. It'll be great if I can review the stream. Yeah. This is going to be archived. Now, it's going to be unlisted, which means it doesn't show up like on my videos. Like when you go to my uploads, it's not going to be there, but it's going to be in a, what is that called? Oh, man, my brain is failing me today. In a playlist. So I'm going to place it in a playlist called live streams, and then all this information is going to be there. How long has this been going on for? It's been going on for an hour. I hope you guys aren't bored. If you guys are bored, let me know and I'll kill this. Let's see. Rhino sucks. Oh my God, I do not like Rhino. Well, what do you prefer, Elroy? I love Rhino. Rhino's awesome. Do you prefer SketchUp? I mean, I have no hate to any of the programs. I think all programs do their thing. And Rhino is one of my favorites in my opinion. Oh, let's go back to Groovy. They were talking about their project. So let's see. It's a small beach house for a dad and his two sons. It's in a small piece of land, so we're figuring out how to make all spaces to have good views toward the sea. Sorry for my bad English. Dude, your English is fine. No need to apologize. That is awesome. Wow, congratulations. Make sure that you join our Discord, and we have a space for you to share your work. So if you want to like get on there and show us what you're working on, that'll be so cool. You know, like I don't really see too many built projects on our Discord. So, you know, showing other students and stuff like what you're working on in real life, everybody's going to love that and everybody's going to learn from that. So awesome. That's cool. And also like, you know, tell us a little bit about how you got that project. Cause, that's really going to help out students understand like what it's like acquiring your own clients. Erica, keep on going. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Landon says, this is so boring. And then Yash was like, note the sarcasm in Landon's voice. I don't know. Landon, I don't know about Landon. I think Landon is trying to sabotage everything. Alejandro says, probably the least boring thing I've watched this week. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. The Senate says, where's your Discord link? And the Senate, I've been seeing you all over my community posts. So thank you for answering every single one of those. That's let's go back to those community questions that I've been asking. So let's say, where's your Discord link? I want to upload my mediocre portfolio. Yeah, man. So if you go to moochph.com, that's moochph.com. That's my website. I'm working on it currently. But I have the links to all my social media there, and Discord is one of them, so check it out. Aisha says, am I late? No, I mean, you're an hour late, but hey, it's better late than never. Jason says, you're so inspiring. Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. I'm glad that I'm helping you guys out. Victor wants to know how do we join the Discord? Well, like I said, moochph.com. That's my website. All my links to the social medias are there. We got Reddit, which nobody uses Reddit for some reason. It's just like a dead thing, but maybe one day it'll be revived. We got Instagram. We got a bunch of stuff. Check out moochph.com. Let's see. Aisha says, it's morning here. Well, good morning. Where are you from, Aisha? Let us know. Landon James says, I'm never sarcastic. I told you guys, Landon is trying to sabotage this. He says it's boring. He wants me to end this. Arky School says, look at the right side of his YouTube banner and click the Discord link. Yes, that's true. Groovy says, I am on Discord. Thank you for the encouragement. I was lucky to receive this project from my uncle. He's been saving up money for this little project and waiting for me to graduate to hire me. Dude, that is awesome, man. That is super cool. Like I said, share whatever you can share and we'll be super grateful for it. Aisha's from India. Well, oh yes, I had someone else say that they were going to join and it was like 6 or 7 in the morning there. So thank you. Thank you for being up so early. Enjoy your coffee or your tea or whatever you drink. Landon, off topic, but do you play any video games? If so, what games are you hitting up? I wish I could play more. I play... Sometimes I have a Stadia. Does anybody have Stadia? Like, I feel like that thing, like nobody has that. Nobody shows it love. I'm not a real gamer, so that's why I have Stadia. But I play, let's see, what was the last thing I played? I used to play Halo a lot, but I don't play anymore. I played a little bit of Apex recently. Dude, my mind's just blank right now. But Apex, I think Apex is the one game. And Rocket League. Apex and Rocket League, definitely. Let's see. Oh, Beto wants to know, you haven't told the story about the Mooch PH pigeon head story. All right, so why is a channel called Pigeon Head Architecture, right? So this is a weird story. 2.5 years ago, I wanted to start a YouTube channel. I knew it was going to be architecture, but I didn't know what the channel was going to be called. So then I kind of like came up with a name. It was, I think it was Untitled Architecture. Why did I name it that? I don't know. I thought it sounded pretty cool. And it was like untitled, it was like, whatever. Dumb. I think it's dumb now, but I thought it was super cool. And I told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to call the channel Untitled Architecture. And then she's like, ah, that sounds horrible. And I was like, really? You think? I think it's so cool. And then she's like, no, that sounds horrible. You should do pigeon head. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to do pigeon head. Now, why pigeon head? Okay. Back in like 2014 or 2013, I don't really remember. I was working at a bank. Okay. And there's like when you're working at a bank, you get like on your computer when certain people are making transactions, if they're suspicious, like it'll make me like verify that that person is really that person, depending on what it says on the screen. So sometimes it'll say like ask for their ID. Sometimes it'll say ask them this question. So that day there was a person standing in front of me, and it was very fishy. It was almost like they were doing fraud on the account. And the computer automatically was like, going crazy, and it was asking me for all this stuff. And the client was getting really mad. And I don't know if this person is really doing fraud or not. Like, there's no way for me to know. Like, I trust the person, but the system found it weird. So then I go to, the guy was pissed already at me. He was like screaming. My manager was like coming over. And then finally I'm like, sir, please, I just have to ask you one question. He's like, you've already asked me 10,000 questions. I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. The computer's asking it for, for the question, for the answer to this question. He's like, okay, go ahead. I was like, what is the secret password to your account? And he just screamed at the top of his lungs, pigeon head. And everybody just like looked at him, and he was like breathing heavy. And then I'm like, okay. And I type in pigeon head, I hit enter, and it went through. And then he got pissed. He just like, I gave him his money and he took off. And then everybody, once he did that, everybody started cracking up. They're like, pigeon head, what the heck is going on? Like, and then I told that story to everybody in my family, and like everybody laughed at it so hard because it was, dude, it was so like nerve wracking, one. And two, it was like really embarrassing for a guy just to scream pigeon head in the middle of the bank. And so that always remained like a little like a inside joke within my family. And so when I told my girlfriend, she told me, no, you should definitely do pigeon head architecture. And I liked it because I wanted my channel to be, like, I didn't want it to be like a serious architecture, like boring architecture. I wanted it to be fun. And I wanted it to be like about anything that has to do with architecture. I wanted it to be fun, cool, silly, anything. And so I thought that pigeon head definitely filled that. So that's why it's called pigeon head architecture. Let's see. So I'm in class 11th, and I wanted to ask that is the book The Architecture of Happiness a good choice? Unfortunately, Sopan, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm not against any books really. Like, I say you should read it. I'm not familiar with that one though. Anybody else know that book, Architecture of Happiness? Elroy, do you still have time for weekly social events, etc., or is it ever changing? No, definitely. Like, for example, tomorrow I have friends coming over. We're gonna hang out outside, because unfortunately we don't get to hang out inside anymore because of the pandemic and stuff. So we have to like hang out outside. But yeah, we get to hang out all the time. Me personally, I have less time than most other people because I'm doing this YouTube channel. But I work 40 hours and that's it. I barely ever have to stay late at my firm. Luckily, my firm's awesome. Like, we don't have to do all-nighters. Like, I used to work at a firm that we used to have to stay late every so often, and it was terrible. Here, I have only stayed late like I think twice in the last year. And by last year I mean 2020, not 2021. So I do have time. I have plenty of time. Yash says, "Find this guy. He's your legacy." I think you're talking about the the client. Yeah, I don't even remember what that guy looks like. If I saw him in the street right now, I would not know. Let's see. Beto says, "This is definitely a fun channel. Thank you. I'm glad. I'm really happy. I'm really happy that you think this is fun. I hope everybody finds it fun, or most people at least." Groovy Noodles, how do you think we should deal with the increasing demand for better performance, more software knowledge, speed, and overall excellence needed for the average architect nowadays? That's true. Something that's very scary is that we're like becoming even more dependent on software, and software is getting way more complicated. So like, there's a few people at my firm that do Dynamo. If you don't know what Dynamo is, it's like Grasshopper. It's basically scripting. My advice for you guys is learn about scripting. I think that's also the future of architecture. To answer your question though, I don't think I think architects are like kind of expected to be what's that phrase? I forgot the phrase, but like we're expected to be good at everything, right? We're expected to like know how to design and render and create plans and communicate them and all this stuff. And then now we're even expected to learn more software. I think that the cool thing about architecture is that you work in a team. Even though we're made out to look like lone wolves, we're really not. Architecture is like a team game. So if you have troubles learning a specific software, it's okay because you can always hire someone. Like if you own a firm, for example, you can always hire someone that knows about the knowledge, that has the knowledge that you need in whatever specific software. I think it's good to stay up to date, but I don't think it's necessary to be a professional at everything. And I actually advise against that. I think that, try to be an expert at something, but not everything. Because when you try to be an expert at everything, you like spread yourself too thin, and then you're almost like worthless at some point. So try instead to become an expert at one thing. If that one thing is like, for example, Rhino, that's okay. You might not know how to work on Grasshopper, but you can always find someone that can help you. But if you're an expert at Rhino, you're going to be the go-to guy for Rhino, right? If you're an expert at designing, you're going to be the go-to guy for designing. If you're the expert guy for like finding out how to get the money for this project, you're going to be the go-to guy for that. So become an expert in something. That's my advice for that. Jay Hernandez, good job. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Let's see. Elroy says, I'm just afraid of architecture being a 24/7 job. Look, guys, if you're working at a firm where you're working 24/7 and you hate it, right? Like if you love working that much, then more power to you. But if you hate it, there are plenty of other firms. Trust me, I'm telling you, I work at a firm right now that luckily it's not 24/7. I work like the amount of hours that I need to work, and we have weekends, we have holidays, like we have a good community. So those firms exist, guys. So if you're right now working in a firm, or if in the future you work for a firm that you don't like, that doesn't mean that architecture is bad. That just means that the firm that you're at doesn't align with your goals, with your views. So remember that. Hargan says, do your colleagues watch your videos? Some of them do. I don't really like promote myself. Like I don't walk around saying like I have a YouTube channel. Like when people ask me what my hobbies are, I tell them, like I like to create videos and stuff. But yeah, like most people that I know do not know that I have a channel, but a lot of them do. A lot of them, especially people like back in college and stuff. Let's see. Can you tell me, Aisha, can you tell me like what question you're referring to, the one about the branch of architecture? I'd be happy to answer it. Just let me know. Michael, I already answered that question in like at the beginning of the video. What's the reason that you chose architecture? The short answer, if you want to see the whole thing, like I'm gonna archive this video, so you can check it out in the live stream playlist. But basically, the short answer is that my cousin was starting architecture. He was studying architecture, and I saw him. And he was like building all these super cool models, and I was like, man, that's awesome. I want to do that, and so I did it. And funny thing is, he's not an architect. He actually stopped. He dropped out, and he did something else. And he's happy doing what he does, and he's very, very successful. So that goes to show you, anybody in here that doesn't want to do architecture in the future, like there's a possibility you could still be a successful person. Okay, don't feel like a failure. It's okay. Sidant, and if I pronounce anybody's name or screen name, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. Like, anyway, I'm kind of tired already. How did you learn Rhino? I learned Rhino from a friend. I had to learn it like over a weekend, but luckily I knew AutoCAD. If you know AutoCAD, the commands for Rhino are very similar. The only thing that's different is the interface, because on AutoCAD, you only have one thing that you're looking at, and on Rhino, you have 4 screens. You're looking at the top, the left, the back, and then like the 3D. And you could change that. You can make it only one by double clicking the square or whatever. But the commands are similar. Like if you want to draw a line, you type in line. If you want to draw a P line, you draw a P line. If you want to do a polygon. And then where it gets complicated is with a 3D, because the commands are like extrude. And then you have like a weird one called Boolean difference, which I don't know why the heck they put Boolean difference and not like something else. But yeah, like that's how I learned it. So it's really easy. If you know AutoCAD, dude, you could learn Rhino in like a couple days. The hard part, well, you're not gonna master it, but you're gonna be able to like create stuff in a couple of days. I actually wanted to show you guys something that I'm working on. This is pretty exciting. Where did I put it? Oh man, I don't know what I did with that. What a bummer. I wanted to show you guys. I'm I'm working on a pen. I know it's Ugh, I'm sorry guys. Let me find this thing real quick. All right, I have no idea what the heck I did with that thing. It's a prototype, but I'm designing a pen. You guys are probably like, what the heck? Why are you designing a pen? That's like the simplest thing ever. It's like a little project that I'm doing with like magnets and springs and stuff. And so I'll make a video on that in the future. I don't know what I did with it, but I'm basically, I designed this like really weird pen, and I'm 3D printing it. I have a resin 3D printer. And so, whatever. It was a prototype anyway. It's not like complete. But I just wanted to share that with you guys because I want to show you how like the cool thing about architecture is like it teaches you how to be creative. And so I made this pen. I also made a watch a little while ago. I have a video on my YouTube channel where I like designed a watch one time. And anyway, I'll talk to you more about that pen in the future. It's really cool. But let's see. Alex97143 says, I'm really into doing floor plans and using softwares like Illustrator to do technical projects. Is that what you do in a firm, or would it vary? It depends, really. Some firms make you do the same thing over and over and over again. Some firms make you do a little bit of everything. The firm that I'm in, for example, right now, I have to do a little bit of everything. Sometimes I'm doing rendering, sometimes I'm designing, sometimes I'm sketching, sometimes I'm in meetings, sometimes I don't use Illustrator. I use Photoshop. Sometimes I'm photoshopping stuff. So at my last firm, for example, I was more like doing the same thing over and over and over again. So it really depends on the firm. Sometimes you're doing the marketing for the firm. Like sometimes you're managing their social media. It depends on the firm. But yeah, definitely. If you know Illustrator, that's a very powerful program to know. And so what I've noticed about architecture, like especially like medium-sized and big firms, there's always there's always a need for something. So like you can apply and tell them like, hey, this is what I'm really interested in, what I'm really good at. Is there a space for me in your firm to do that? And chances are, yeah, if you look hard enough, you'll be able to find a firm that needs your talents. Let's see. And guys, I know that like I'm missing some of your questions. I'm sorry. I'm trying to go like up and down through the list that I see here, trying to get them. If I don't, keep trying to ask it and I'll get to it. I'm sorry. Let's see. Danilo wants to know, will I sell it? If you're referring to the pen, yeah, I think I will sell it. Dang, man, I wish I had it here. I don't know what the heck I did with that pen. It's driving me nuts. I just wanted to show it to you guys. I think I'll sell it. I'm trying to see how much it's costing me to make it. I think it's costing me like $7 or $8 to make it, maybe like $10 or $12. I don't know. I have to see how much, but I'm basically just gonna sell it for whatever it cost me to make it. And then plus, like, my idea is like I want to sell it on my website, so keep an eye on that. And then, like, if it works, like if I can get this thing to work, because like I'm still on the prototype phases, so it's still kind of like clunky, and I'm kind of trimming it to make it look cool. But it's basically going to be like an architecture inspired pen. If you go watch the video after this about my watch, it's a long video, guys, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But if you look at what I did with the watch, it's a similar idea that I'm doing, but with a pen instead. And I'm trying to keep it super cheap. And I might do like a subscription-based pen thing where, like, what I do is like you subscribe to it, and every month I ship you out a pen, and it's like a one-of-a-kind pen that's inspired by architecture. Hopefully that happens. I don't know. It all depends like how good I can make this thing. But right now it looks promising. I don't know. I don't know if how far out it'll get. Now I don't know. Like, if it ends up costing me $20 to make a pen, like, who the heck is gonna pay $20? You know, I don't know. I might put it on the website if someone wants to buy it. Cool, but whatever. We'll see. We'll see. It is cool though. Like, I'm enjoying making it. It's super fun. Okay, juxtaposition /99 says, you are legit the embodiment of what most people want to get to in architecture. The future uncertain for architect students like me. Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, trust me, guys, like, if you consider like where I'm at right now, like something that you would want to be in the future, definitely, like, you can get there. I'm not like special in any way. You can make it. Okay. I guarantee you guys, you can make it. You just have to, there's certain things that you want to do in life that'll help you be as successful as possible. One of those things is networking. And I talked about this a little bit at the beginning. Networking doesn't mean being the most popular guy in the class. It doesn't mean being the funniest. It just means realizing that every person you meet in life is special, and you want to make sure that you keep in contact with them forever. Even if you're like at a cafe one day and you're talking to the person that's ringing you up, you know, that person is special. Okay. So trying to make friends with that person, trying to just keep in contact with that person can help you someday. It may not, but it doesn't matter. Like, the point is try to be friendly with everybody. And so network is very important. Business and financing is important. And what's the last thing? Time management. So yeah, you guys can definitely make it. Trust me. Keep watching videos, keep reading books, keep listening to podcasts, keep talking. Like, I have a Discord. I keep talking about my Discord because I have it, but I'm not trying to like make you guys just do that one thing. Like, I want you guys to find whatever helps you guys and do that. Okay. I only say the Discord because I think the Discord has a lot of power in that there's a lot of like-minded individuals there, and who knows what can come out of that. Right now, it's just like fun. Like, people are just talking for fun, but I don't know if one day, like, one of you guys are going to find business out of there. Or one day, two of you guys in that Discord will be able to start your own firm together. I don't know, but that's cool, you know? So, like, I didn't have a Discord when I was in school. I just had my own studio. I didn't have the ability to talk to people across the world. You know, our Discord is like so diverse. It's crazy. So take advantage of it, guys. Does physics play a big role in architecture? Dude, huge. But not, if you mean like, do we have to do physics? No, not necessarily. We have to study physics, definitely. I did physics 1 and 2 in school. It was hard. It was really, really difficult. I had to do a couple structures classes, calculating moments and all this stuff that I don't remember how to do anymore because a structural engineer does it. It helps if you understand it, because when they send their plans over and you're reviewing them, it helps if you understand what they're talking about. But don't worry, if you're not like good at physics or anything, don't worry about that. But yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Like, there's certain things that you're not going to be able to do that you may want to do in your designs that you're not going to be able to, because your structural engineer is going to be like, that is impossible. And here's the difference. If you know a little bit about physics, you might be able to be like, it's not impossible, structural engineer. It's not. And then he'll be like, you're right. I was trying to save a few bucks. He'll never admit that, or she'll never admit that. But yeah, it's important. It's important to know as much as possible. But physics is important. It is. But again, not in the sense that you're going to be using it at work. No, you're going to be designing. You're going to be drafting. You're going to be creating. You're not really going to be like calculating anything. At least not like structures wise. Let's see here. If you see this, Aisha basically asked, what are the other specializations in architecture, such as landscape architects and interior designers, and what do they do in their jobs? I'm going to have to make a video on this because this is really complex and I can sit here all night long to talk about this, but there's tons of specializations in architecture, and every day it's like a new one pops up. So there's landscape architect who basically helps you, and the reason I say help is because you technically don't necessarily need certain consultants, but they make your life so much easier, and it's always better to get as many people on the team as you possibly can afford, or as the project possibly permits. But a landscape architect helps you designing the landscape. They have an understanding of like what the trees and vegetations of the landscape should be depending on like whatever you're trying to achieve for the project. Also, something else is that they help a lot with the system. So if you're gonna have like any water features or like any benches or anything, like they know what companies to work with. So they just make your life so much easier. There's something in architecture called specking, and what specking is like, let's say you say I want a bench, right? The contractor is like, okay, do you have a spec for the bench? And you're like, okay, a spec is like a detailed document saying like how to build or how to install whatever it is that you're telling the contractor you want. And it talks about like the materials, the dimensions, all this stuff. So it's like a document, right? And everything has a spec. That's why at the end of a project, you submit something called a spec book, and a spec book is basically like a detailed book talking about everything that you want in the project, who manufactures it, like all the dimensions and how to install it, because that's basically what the contractor is going to use to build it. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you try to find those documents for everything inside a building, you're going to go mad, right? So that's why your consultants help you, because your electrical engineers are finding specs for your lights. Your plumbing engineers are finding specs for drain pipes and whatnot. So every like sub-consultant is gonna be very special to your project. So we have landscape architects. The reason I said that is because keep in mind that the ones that I'm gonna mention now, they help you with that stuff, okay? So we have landscape architects, we have interior designers, which as the name suggests, they help you design the interiors, they help you find like the materials, they help you convey the image, and they help you find really like, there's a lot of problems that arise in interior design that they help you with. There's civil engineers, structural engineers, there's lighting consultants that tell you what kind of lights you should use depending on what you want to do. There's facade designers, like I think Zahner, I think it's Zahner. I personally haven't worked for them. I think there's a project in my firm that has worked with them. They're a consultant. Like if you want a cool facade on your building, like they figure that stuff out so you don't have to worry about it. Like you kind of tell them like, hey, this is what I want, and they help you with that. There's like, for everything you can imagine, there's a consultant for. So if something interests you, like if you like music, for example, I guarantee you there is a spot for you in the world of construction that has to do with music. For example, like audio consultants, like if you're designing like a music hall, for example, right, or a concert hall, architects are not specialized in sound. We know a little bit about it, but we don't know everything about it. And so you want to get a consultant that understands sound. And so if whatever your passion is in life, make sure that you try to go in that direction in architecture so you can become a specialist in that. You're going to enjoy what you're doing, and you might become the go-to person maybe in the world for that. And yeah, that's my advice. So yeah, there's so many branches, like pretty much anything you can imagine. There's a person for that in architecture. Do I like Lego? Not anymore. I don't have anything against Lego, but I don't really play around with Lego anymore. I like building stuff, okay? But I usually use Rhino. I usually don't do Lego anymore. Sorry if that wasn't what you were expecting. Susan Lee says, hey Mooch, are you a freelance architect or do you work for a company? If you do work for a company, who do you work for? All right, so I freelanced in the past. I talked about in the stream that like a little while ago that I last year, basically like the whole beginning of last year and the end of the year prior, I was freelancing for a very small team. I basically got contacted from like a colleague, and they asked me if I was interested in working at like this very high end fitness center. It was a brand new fitness center. They were gonna have spas. They were gonna have like stage seating. They were gonna have like massage rooms. It was like for athletes, right? And so I was like, yeah, actually, yeah, sure. So I took some time off from a firm and I started working for that little small team. I was freelancing. I was waking up like at 11 o'clock every day and just kind of like from 11 to like 4, I would just like work like crazy just because I was so inspired and I was getting so much done so quickly. And I was working from home and it was awesome. And now, no, now I'm working for a firm, and both have their pros and cons. Like I would definitely freelance again in the future. But right now I'm just not in the state of mind to be like looking for my own clients. It's kind of a difficult thing to do and it takes up a lot of time to do. So that's why I say it's so important to have a network. If you can have a network and everybody knows you as the architect in that network, like you're gonna have no issues getting jobs. But it is tough. So like you got to have an entrepreneurial spirit to freelance. And so if you guys are thinking of freelancing, I would say check out Upwork.com. It's kind of like Fiverr. I don't really recommend Fiverr for that. I mostly recommend Upwork. It's a website that you guys can check out and do some freelance work. They don't really have stuff for students, unfortunately. Like very rarely will you see someone asking for like someone to render, but most of the stuff is like from licensed architects. So if there's any like actual licensed architects here, or if you guys know a licensed architect that you guys can team up with, check out Upwork. It's good for freelancing. Let's see. How much do consultants run by, Ken? I don't understand your question. Do you mean like how much do they charge? If you could rephrase that question, Ken, and I'll definitely answer it. TJ Lancer says, do you ever travel for work in the field of architecture? Recently, I've been traveling just locally. At my last firm, I was traveling quite a bit, a lot of flights and stuff. It was pretty cool. And I never traveled outside of the US. It was always like within the US. But yeah, traveling is fun, man. Like if you have families, it can get tough. Like, and by families, I mean like big families. Like if you have like kids and stuff, it can be really tough. But I don't have kids right now. So like I'm able to travel and without a real problem. But yeah, like, yeah, there depends on the firm you work for. Like my firm is pretty local. We tend to stay within the area, but there's a lot of firms out there that are doing like international work, and yeah, you're gonna have to travel a lot. So a lot of these bigger firms, chances are like if you see that they're doing projects around the world, like and you work for them, you're gonna travel, like for sure. Let's see here. So Ken wants to know how much would adding a consultant to a project would cost. Ken, that's a great question. Unfortunately, it's not easy to answer. It's really, really difficult to answer that question because different consultants charge differently depending on the project and what the scope is. And by scope, I mean like what their role in the project is. It could be ranging from a few thousand to hundred thousands, even a million. It depends on the size of the project, but it's usually a percentage, right? So it's usually like 1%, 2%, 10%. I would say like something like 1 to 3% is like a good, very nasty, rough estimate to like guess. So like if the project is $1 million and then you do the math for like 1 to 3%, that's how much the consultant might get paid. But it really depends on how much work it is and how good the consultant is. But like I said, that's just a very rough estimate. Groovy Noodle says, Mooch, thank you for doing this. It's been great. I'm glad. And thank you, everyone. Cool. I guess you're tuning out. Well, if so, talk to you soon. Let's see. It's 10:40. I think I'm going to kick this for another 20 minutes and then I'm going to end it. Let's really quickly go through. I'm just excited because it's like the first live stream that I ever do on this channel, actually in ever. So this has been fun. You guys ask really awesome questions. Let me just go really quickly through that community post to be fair. So Why pigeon? I answered that. Will architects be demanded in the future? Is it a dying career? I answered that already. Oh, I think Hargan is in here. That's who was asking. What are the different parts or can... Oh, Aisha, yeah. Oh, I answered all your guys' questions on the chat, on the community posts. I hope you guys like those like weird questions that I was asking. So like, let's run through those really quickly. So the first question I asked a week ago, I got 1.2 thousand votes. Which one of these are you? Architect, 10%. So out of 1,000 people, 10% of them were architects, 54% are students, 25% are enthusiasts of architecture, and 12% of you are like, what? Huh? What? Because I know that like a lot of times YouTube sends out my content to people who have nothing to do with architecture. So I kind of added that just like for fun. And 12% were like, have no idea what I was talking about. My next question was, what's your favorite rendering program? Is it Blender, Enscape, Lumion, Twinmotion, or other? So the majority of you love Lumion. Second place is Twinmotion with 27%. Then we got Blender in third place. Actually, no, third place is other. So I'm not gonna go through the comments, but basically, if they checked other, they wrote in the comments supposedly like what their favorite was. So that's third place. Fourth place is Blender, and then fifth place is Enscape. And yeah, I kind of agree. I think Blender's amazing, but it's really not like architects aren't really using that too much right now. But it will definitely be used in the future. Next question was, what's your favorite preferred way to communicate your projects? If you're not practicing or studying architecture yet, pick one of the ones that you think you'd like the most. Feel free to add detail in the comments. So people prefer to communicate their projects. In first place, 37% out of 581 votes is computer renderings. Yeah, most people love to create renderings. I guess it's like the coolest thing to do. It's like the funnest thing. 28% likes to do hand sketches, drawings, and paintings. Yeah, that's super fun. Third place likes to build physical models. I was always terrible at building physical models, and I was so happy when I finally got a 3D printer, and I was just like doing my designs while my 3D printer was like working on the side. 13%, that's fourth place, actual plans. And 7% of you actually enjoy verbal presentation. I can't believe anybody voted for that. I agree, it's like one of the most powerful tools, but it's one of the most nerve-wracking. Then the next question was, what type of projects would you like to design in the future? 53% of you guys voted custom home, right? That's probably one of the main reasons why we get into architecture. We dream of like designing our own home one day. Then 17% was a museum. 14% in third place is an airport terminal. And then 10% was a high rise. So like big buildings in downtown. And then 5% was other. This other question was, for architecture to work, there must be a combination of elements and characteristics working together. But let's say that you could only pick one of the following for a custom home that you're designing for a client. Which one would it be? The opposite will be true of your design. So this one was like a funky one. I just wanted to see like what you guys were thinking. So 37% of you, like the majority of you, want to design something that's functional over anything else. Then in second place, you guys want sustainable over anything else. Then the next group is people who want aesthetically pleasing over anything else. And most people don't care if like you have sophisticated technology, and most people don't care about location. That beats me, right? Like who would have thought that? All right, this one was weird because like I did not expect this answer at all. I was like, if you had to live in a world with only one of these architecture styles, which one would it be? Like almost half of you voted postmodern. Now, I'm pretty sure that maybe you guys don't know like what postmodern is, because most people tend to hate postmodern. I have no idea like what's going on with that one. I don't know if maybe people thought that I meant just modern, but postmodern, like people tend to hate. I don't hate postmodern, but people tend to hate it. So I just was so surprised that most of you picked that one. I thought like neoclassical or like Gothic was going to be up there, but no, postmodern. You guys love it. Cool. I'm going to assume that you guys really do dig it. So that's cool. And let's see, just two more here. Actually, let's just skip to the last one. This one was from yesterday. You and your team of genius architects and engineers have just been commissioned to design a city in one of the following sites. Assuming that you're granted unlimited resources, which site do you choose? So I put deepest part of the ocean, Earth's core, Mars, space revolving around our sun, or floating within our atmosphere. Most of you guys chose Mars. So maybe in a few years, we're going to start to see some of you guys designing those structures in Mars. Now I'm back here to the live stream. Let's see here. Let's see what else I could answer for you guys. Beto says, thank you for your Q&A, man. Unfortunately, I gotta go, but I'll watch the rest of it later. If you get a chance, I'd appreciate it if you answer any residential inspirations or firms, architects that you recommend, please and thanks. At the firm that you work at, any strategies that you use to convey your design with any stakeholder members like clients or design directors. Residential architecture inspirations. I used to have so many that I used to look at, but like lately, I'm subscribed to architecture magazines. I get them through work, so I don't even know the names of them, unfortunately. But I just kind of go through those magazines, and I get my inspiration from there. So I suggest that you guys like check out architecture magazines. They're really good way of like keeping in touch with like what's going on, what kind of like moves are happening in the realm of architecture, especially residential. Um, and then at the firm that you work at, any strategies that you use to convey your design? Yeah, we love 3D printing. Believe it or not, like we love creating like three-dimensional models and like having our clients just interact with them. They look at them like if they're toys. They grab them. They're like, "This is gonna be my building one day. That's so cool!" Like they love those. We tried doing the whole 3D, the whole VR, the Oculus thing one time. Clients don't really like that. Believe it or not, it's kind of clunky. I don't think VR is there yet. Maybe one day like AR will be more promising. But we have Oculus headsets at work, and like they're just kind of sitting there. They're in a pile, unfortunately. Edward Rose says, last question, Mooch. Have you ever renovated a building or just did it for fun? Yeah. I used to do a lot of renovations at my old firm, and we did a pharmacy. That was pretty cool. Like we did it was like a high end pharmacy. Like I never would have guessed that like they would have had that much budget for a pharmacy, but the pharmacy before we got there was like it looked like a scene from like one of those zombie movies. Like it was just dark. There was no light. Smelled nasty in there, and we were able to turn it into like this really cool project. Like me and my boss at the time, we designed like this metal wing that like went right over. It was like we designed it like inspired by the wing of an airplane. So it was like really nice, made out of perforated metal, and then the light was like going through. We designed it all in AutoCAD, and like we started by sketching and showing the client. Like it was really fun, and like it was just right above like the counters of like the people that work there. I forget, like the tellers, I guess. uh it was just such a fun project. So yeah, I've done a bunch of renovation. I've done like that pharmacy. I've done higher education, um, like colleges and university campuses. I've done a little bit there. I even did one time. I unfortunately didn't get to see that project being done. I saw it starting to get demolished, but it was a fraternity house. So that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool project. Um, let's see. Just juxtaposition says we need more Q and A's. Yeah, I'm gonna cut this off like at 11, but definitely like I'll try to do this like once a month for sure and answer your questions because you guys are like you guys are asking amazing questions. Let's see here. What do you think about architecture schools in India? Are they good? Unfortunately, I don't know. Like I get that question a lot, not only in India, but like in other parts of the world. People ask me like, "Oh, what colleges do you recommend?" I don't like to recommend colleges just because I don't know of every single college that's out there. Maybe one day in the future, some of the content that I could do is I could travel to some of these schools and like, make like little videos, like have a little meeting with the dean or whatever, and like make little like bite-sized videos and put them on my channel. Maybe I do that, and like who knows, but it's expensive to travel and um I don't know. Maybe I'll do something like that. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. Maybe I do that. And then that way it helps you guys out too. But definitely join the Discord, ask those kind of questions on the Discord because there's people from all over the world in Discord and they could give you a better answer for that. And again, if you want to find my Discord, it's moochph.com. That's my website. And you can find all the links to my social media, including Discord there. Let's see here. So Bayanto says, I'm studying architecture in a third world country, and I was wondering if that would affect my chances in my job search once I graduate, or is my portfolio and GPA more important? Um, it doesn't really matter. Like if you mean that you're gonna study there and then move to the States, for example, like, okay, going to a good school is important. I'm not saying it's not. It is. But at the end of the day, how inspired you are and how talented you are is probably a little bit more important, probably much more important. Okay. So if you went to a bad school, but your work shows that you're inspired, that you want to learn, that you want to change the world in a positive way, that'll take you places. Your dedication is going to take you places. Like what school you went to is not, it might get your foot in the door in some cases, but it's much more important to be a passionate, dedicated individual. That's what's going to get you places, guys. That's what's going to get you to where you want to go. Ken wants to know, how should I go about getting an internship? Great question. I mentioned this book before. You guys should check this book out. This is a really, really good book. It's called Your Architecture Career by Gary Unger. It talks a little bit about that, but the best way is to go on Google Maps, where you live, Google architecture, Google interior design, and Google like real estate development, and make a list of all those places and show up to all those places. And ask them if you can get an internship there. That is the best way. That's not how I did it. That's not something that I thought of on my own back in the day, like when I was looking for a job. The way that I found my internship was through a teacher. So I had this really good semester one time. It was like one of my best semesters. Like, I don't know, my brain was on fire that semester. I was like super creative. I was doing cool stuff. I made this like pyramid. It was like a plexiglass pyramid where I had my iPad under it, and it was like, it would reflect the image that was on the iPad to each 4 sides of the pyramid to create like a hologram. And I found that on YouTube. I was watching like YouTube like one night while I was working on my model, and I saw a video of like someone doing that for something else. It wasn't for architecture. I'm like, dude, I should do that for my model. And I did it. And like I took that model to work, and it was just like my building revolving, and everybody was like around the pyramid, and they were like, man, that's so cool. My teacher loved it so much. He offered me like a job. Like he was like, oh, I know someone that's hiring. Are you interested? Like, I guess he saw like how like into architecture I was and how passionate I was to like really convey the message of my building. And he told me, he's like, when you apply, because it wasn't him that was hiring, it was like a friend of his, but he was like, when you go apply, I'm putting in your name, like I'm putting in a good word for you, but take that pyramid to the interview. And so I took it, I showed it to them, they thought it was super cool, they hired me, and it was a paid internship. So if you guys can, try to get a paid internship, and that's how I would do it. Like, be friends with your professors, even though if you don't love all your professors, like I said, networking is important. Everybody that you meet is special, so try to keep in contact with everybody, and your professors are no exception. Let's see. Edward Ross says, cool. Ken Backus says, how should I go about getting an internship? I read that already. Gacho says, I want to be an architect, and can I be self-taught? Architecture is like, I don't want to say impossible, but I wouldn't recommend being self-taught. You could learn a lot about it, but no, self-taught is not one of those. You can definitely apply without going to school. You can apply at a firm and work for them, like start learning the rope. You can teach yourself like AutoCAD and Revit. So like maybe find a firm around you that's hiring and being like, hey, what would you need besides like a degree? What do you need if I don't have a degree to work here? Like if I knew AutoCAD, can I work here? If I knew Revit, and if they say yes, teach yourself how to use those programs and then get a job there. And then you'll learn about architecture by working. But learning about the whole thing, just like from books and videos and podcasts, impossible. There's too much. It's impossible. I'm not going to say impossible. Very difficult. Like 99.9% impossible. Just 0.00001 possible. Write these video ideas down. I don't know what you're talking about. I wish I have this like bookmark feature here. I didn't use it. I also have an ad feature. I could have inserted an ad when I like took those little breaks. I should have done that. It's just like put a little ad, and then that would have allowed me to go get some water. So my throat is like dry. I feel like I'm dying here, but I'm gonna get off in just like 5 minutes. Let's see. So I don't know what video ideas you're talking about, unfortunately, Yash, but I guess I'll go through this live stream and jot down some ideas. We wouldn't want you to forget. Yeah, you're right. I forgot already. I'm sorry. Vallento says, yes, I'm American, so I'm going back to America. Where are you currently? I don't know where you're from. But yeah, come back to America, man. We miss you. I'm a high school. Okay, so Loob says, I'm a high school junior right now, and I'm interested in studying architecture, but I don't know much about it. Any advice? Yeah, definitely. I would say just like watch my videos, type in architecture on YouTube, watch whatever you can like watch, because some stuff is boring. There's a lot of boring content out there. But like, watch whatever you can. Join our Discord. Go to moochph.com and join our Discord and chat with other people there. Ask them what their opinions are on learning architecture. See what podcasts and YouTubers and books they recommend, and just try to learn as much as you can before you start school. That's my advice to you. Ken Backus says, I know professionals who are self-taught and have a license, but they're older and it's pretty hard now. Yeah, so back in the day, you were able to get grandfathered in. I think like back in the day, if you worked in a firm for like 15 years or 10 years or 20 years, you were able to apply to get a license. That, as far as I'm concerned, is not the case anymore. Like now you need to have an accredited degree to get a license. That's why I said it's not impossible. Yeah, it's like 0.0001. It's very difficult. Julian Smith is asking, did you ever think of a favorite unbuilt project? No, I completely forgot. Oh, man. It's that most of the projects that I enjoy so much are actually built. Like, there's an architect, Thomas Heatherwick, I think is his name. Let's Google that really quick. Thomas Heatherwick. Yeah, he designed the vessel. It's built, but dude, he designs things that they look like they should not be built, and they're built. So that is my answer. I would just say look at his projects. You look at them, and most of them you're like, nah, that's a rendering, and it is a rendering. But then you look it up, and it's a real project that was built. The man is a genius. I feel like this guy, he just doesn't get as much like exposure as other because he's a designer. I don't know if he's an architect. Is he an architect? Again, Thomas Heatherwick. Yeah, it says English designer, but he's London based, but I don't know that he's an architect. Yeah, the guy makes incredible work. So I don't have an answer for that, but definitely look at his work. Like everything looks like it's unbuilt. And pretty much anything from Bjarke Ingels that's unbuilt, like those are my favorite projects, but unfortunately I can't think of anything that's my favorite that's unbuilt. Sorry. I'm in Sudan. My parents were immigrants, so they brought me back because it's much more affordable than the US. Okay. Well, I wish you luck on your studies over there in Sudan, and I don't think it's going to be a problem, Vallento. I don't think so at all. I think you're going to be fine. Believe me. I think you're going to get hopefully you get a good education, and if you feel like you're not getting a good education, you rough through it and find some external sources to continue learning. And then once you come back to the States, it may be hard to get a job, but once you get your first job here, you'll be fine. You build your resume and you'll be able to progress, no problem. Or maybe not. Maybe in Sudan you find a way to, I don't know, maybe you find a need there or like some sort of problem, and you can find a solution, and then that becomes like your spot. Who knows? Let's see here. Valahex. I'm 24 years old and I'm looking to go back to school. My plan was to get an associate and try to get an entry-level position before finishing a bachelor's. Is that a bad idea? I don't think it's a bad idea at all, Valahex. I think that's a good idea. I think you should get your associates for sure. Learn programs, right? Before you even do that, start talking to firms, let them know like, hey, I'm planning, tell them what you just told me and be like, I want to work for you. How can I work for you? What do you recommend that I know? What kind of programs do you need? Because maybe they need something and there's not even anybody that has reached out that can fulfill that need, and maybe you can be that person, and then you learn it as you're attending school or whatnot. So I don't think it's a bad idea. Daniel Lisboa says, is it difficult for a Brazilian architect to work in the US? No, not at all. There's plenty of work here. It's difficult to be like if you want to be like a licensed architect, that might be difficult because there's certain prerequisites that you're gonna need. But finding a job here, it might be difficult like wherever you go, but it's doable. Yeah, totally doable. Like there's no problem. It doesn't matter where you're from. Like you can find a job. Let's see. This live was great. I loved it. I'm glad you did, RG. Let's see here. Do you know any online courses for architecture? I don't. I don't know any online courses that are good. I think Boston Architectural College has an online degree that you can do, but I don't know too much about that. So that's just like a little thing that you might want to search up. Boston Architectural College, the BAC. I know that they have a good architecture program, but I don't know how their online works. I don't know if like, I don't know how it works. I don't know if it's all online or some of it's online, but check it out. And if I find of anything else, I'll put it on my Discord for sure. All right, one more, and that's gonna be Victor Gonzalez. And then I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could have answered every single question, but we've been here for like 2 hours already, and it's getting kind of late. And I thought I was gonna do this for 30 minutes, so I ended up doing it for 2 hours. But your question, Victor, is how has COVID affected the job market of architecture? So at first, it halted a lot of projects. I fortunately didn't suffer personally. I know a lot of people that got laid off because their firms were not able to continue paying them because the clients either got scared or the clients weren't able to get funding or whatever, and so they stopped their projects and certain firms had to downsize. So it affected a lot of firms that way. I personally didn't get affected. As a matter of fact, I saw an increase in work in my field. I don't know why that happened. I don't know if maybe like some of the clients were getting more loans and stuff. Like there was a lot of loans and a lot of help in the US. And I don't know if maybe they were doing like, I have no idea, but like there was an increase of work. I don't know. I think it definitely like architecture is one of those careers that like they're one of the first to get hit when there's like a recession because a lot of people are not able to get funding, like loans and stuff for new projects. And so a lot of projects like stop. And so architects like really are not able to get new work. So like if a firm specializes in like renovations and stuff like that, maybe it's easier for them to stay afloat. But if a firm just focuses on like new construction, maybe they suffer. But at the moment, I haven't really seen too much of a negative thing. But anyways, guys, I really hope that you guys enjoy this live stream. Thank you guys so much for joining. I see here that there's 41 people left, 40 now. Thank you guys. For those of you who were able to stay through the 2 hours, man, that's wild. Thank you so much. I just want to say, remember, guys, if you want to connect with me, you can go to moochph.com. That's my website. Check out my Instagram. We can chat on there. I post pictures of like everything on there. Check out the Discord. You can chat with other people there. YouTube channel, of course. I'm posting a lot of videos. Got a lot of cool content coming for you guys. I'm going to be talking about like my setup pretty soon. I got some new gear here, new computer and stuff. So I'm going to be talking about that pretty soon. And yeah, I hope to talk to you guys very soon. Thank you guys so much. Remember moochph.com. That's where you're going to find all the links to the Discord, and I'll see you there. And I will be doing another live chat soon with you guys, answering more questions. So, yeah, let me know what your thoughts were either here. I'm going to end this chat, so I don't know if this video's like going to cancel the chat now, but let me know through Instagram or on Discord. Let me know what you guys thought, This is awesome. And right before you go, if you want to see the full thing, right? It's not going to be on my uploads. If you go to my channel, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to make a playlist called live streams, and I'm going to add it there as an unlisted video, but you're going to have access to it. It's the reason it's unlisted is because you're not going to be able to see it under my uploads. It's going to be under like just the playlist. Why am I going to do that? Because I just don't want live streams to show up with all the other videos, because then it just gets confusing for everybody. But yeah, that's it. Good night to all you guys who where it's late there. Like right now it's 11:05 p.m. So I'm gonna be going to bed pretty soon. As you can see, I'm like stumbling along. I'm so tired. It's been a long day. And for those of you guys who are just waking up right now, good morning. And for those of you guys that are working on architecture stuff, well, awesome, man. Yeah, good luck to everybody. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everyone.